In honor of Senior Sunday, I wanted to write two numbers up here on the board and see if you can make the connection between the two numbers and between that and the seniors. So I'm going to write just two numbers up here and see if you have any connection. The number 300, obviously I was not a teacher, so I don't have the good handwriting. But the number 300 and the number 2. Anybody have an idea what 300 and 2 have to do with seniors? Okay, let me give you a hint. The number 300 is reference to feet. 300 feet and the number 2. Anybody have an idea? It's a sharp group we got here today. That's great. So let me give you another hint. The number 2 is in reference to seconds. So 300 feet in 2 seconds. Anybody have an idea what 300 feet in 2 seconds refers to? Let me bail you out here because it may take a while. The way we're going, this is not good. So 300 feet in 2 seconds. If you're going to take off an airplane, it would take you like about 3,000 feet to do that. It takes a long time to get the plane up to a certain speed. But aircraft carriers are designed to shoot a plane off 300 feet in 2 seconds and shoot them out in the sky. Now, if you take 310 feet as an aircraft carrier pilot, you get wet. It doesn't work well. You have to do it in 300 feet, 2 seconds, or it doesn't work. Now, aircraft carriers are probably the most powerful ship in the world. And yet they don't do so many things that other ships do. They don't have the big guns like destroyers. They don't do the Tomahawk missiles and all that across the place. They're not stealthy like submarines. I mean, you cannot sneak up in an aircraft carrier. Like, it just doesn't work if you're trying to be stealthy. But they're probably the most powerful ships in the world because they launch planes. It's what they do. 300 feet in 2 seconds. You know, I think if you're describing what we're called to do as parents, it's really a very similar thing. Proverbs 22 says, start children off the way they should go, and even when they're old, they will not turn from it. Your job and mine is to launch your kids into the world to be adults who love and follow Jesus. That's what you're designed to do. I had someone tell me this morning that they wanted to launch their kids, but that was a whole different thing. They're not seniors. That's just a whole separate issue. But that's why God's placed them in your house, is to launch them into the world, to make them successful as men and women who follow God. Not just launch them as successful careers, that's important. Not just successful relationships, that's important. Not just successful emotions and thoughts, all critical. But spiritually, your job is to launch them as men and women who will follow after God and make a difference in this world for His kingdom. I love the Message translation of that same famous passage. It says, point your kids in the right direction, and when they're old, they will not be lost. We always say as our children's ministry, our teen ministry, we want to put an anchor inside of kids' hearts so deep that when they grow up and wander off, they can only drift so far. It tethers them back to God. It tethers them back to the ways of Him. So your job is to launch them with some anchors in there that will keep them grounded where they need to go. A few months ago, Amy and I went with Lauren to an orientation weekend at Milligan College where she plans to attend in the fall. And it was a great weekend, but it was very surreal. It's like it was a transition, like this is getting real for me. This is actually going to happen, this stupid college thing. So we were looking at it, and they had all different kinds of sessions, financial aid and classes and signing up, all that kind of stuff. But then they had this one session that was designed just for parents. Kids were somewhere else, and it was a local pastor who was speaking to the parents on how to do this transition as a parent. Because it's a big transition, so how do you do that? And it was the most difficult session of the entire weekend for me. Because it's hard to look manly when tears are streaming down your face, and I'm watching this guy talk, and I don't get preached to very often. I get to be on this side, which is easier than your side sometimes, and so this guy's saying these things, and it feels like the lights are just in on me. I'm getting kicked in the gut as I'm watching him talk. But I think it'll be helpful for us today. I think some of the things, I'm going to modify some of the things he said and cut and all that stuff, but some of the roots come from his thoughts, and I want to give honor to that. But also I think it's going to be helpful, not only if you're a senior who's graduating, but if you're a younger student who sees this in your future. Not only if you're a parent with a teen who's graduating, but also if you're a parent of a kid any age, because this is where this is going. Again, you choose the translating, but I think it'll be valuable to us no matter where you are. He had several points that he made. I'll pick some of those. One is to understand your place in the story. God is writing a story in your son or daughter's life, and He's writing that story. He's the author. They're the star of the story. You're neither one of those. You're not writing the story. You're not reliving your story. It's their story, but you've got a place, and you need to know your place in the story. Your place is the launcher. You're there to send them out into the world successful. Ephesians 6:4 says, fathers, don't exasperate your children, but instead bring them up in the training and the instruction of the Lord. You're not the pilot. You're not the captain. You're the launcher. You're the guy on the deck getting them off in their direction. A few verses later, Paul reminds us that we are all in a spiritual battle in this life. And so to launch a kid well, you've got to be aware of that battle. And it goes right in verse 11. It says, put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's scheme. Parenting is not about you. Your children and mine are being raised up in an amazing world with technology and breakthroughs and advances that are things our grandparents never would have dreamed. But we also live in a broken world. And they're going to be standing against the devil's schemes their entire life. And it's our job to place the things in them they need to help launch them well. So it's not about us, it's about them. And we need to understand our place in the story. Second key point is to inject vision into their souls. A few moments ago, we read one of the most famous verses on parenting in all of Scripture where it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not turn from it. And just a few verses later, I'd read that verse before, I've taught on that verse before, but I'd never had noticed it. Just a few verses later, Solomon in chapter 22 of Proverbs and on down through chapter 24 lists what he calls his 30 sayings. And I've done some research, and it seems like scholars, many are pointing to the idea that this was Solomon's best stab at this. So train up a child in the way he should go, up earlier in the passage, and here's 30 good sayings that you could use as a curriculum, if you will, for what that looks like. So who's ready for a 30-point sermon? Show of hands, anybody? Bueller? No, not really, probably not. That's kind of what I figured, that you weren't game for that. So I'm not going to walk slowly through those. I'm going to take a high-level view, but I think they're so relevant. I was so shocked at how specific they were to, specifically kids, as you're sending them out in the world. These things are so tried and true. So I'm going to take each of the sayings, you can read those later, are like paragraphs, maybe 2 paragraphs. I'm going to boil them down in the AHT Bible, the Andy Huddleston translation, into just one simple statement. You can read the full version later. But if you're wanting to inject wisdom and vision into your children's soul, I think these 30 are a good place to start. Number 1, it says, kids, seek wisdom. Make that a priority. 2, don't exploit the poor. 3, don't make friends with a hot-tempered person. You're going to notice how practical all these are. They're so spot on with where people are. Number 4, don't co-sign for loans. Dave Ramsey didn't invent that. I mean, it's great advice, but Proverbs 22, you can see it. That's always been a bad idea, co-signing for, so kids don't do that. It's a bad idea. Number 5, don't move an ancient boundary stone. 6, there's always a place for the skilled trades. There's a lot of ideas these days that everyone's going the same direction, but that's just not in Scripture. In fact, I heard a joke once about a doctor who's having a party for all of his doctor friends in a high-rise apartment, and so he had all these decorations and food and all this great stuff, and right before the party was to begin, guests were going to be arriving any moment. His toilet breaks, and he tries to plunge, but he can't get it. He's like, I got friends, we can't have a broken toilet. So he calls a plumber and said, I need you here right now. We got important people coming over, very high price, a lot of catering, right now. So the guy comes over, fixes the toilet. On the way out, hands him the bill. And the doctor looks at the bill and says, you're charging more an hour than I charge as a doctor. The plumber says, I'm charging more an hour than I charged when I was a doctor too. But I'm a plumber now, and so it's an advancement. There's always going to be a place for skilled workers. Proverbs 22, the verse that I translated says, do you see someone skilled in their work? They'll serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. Always a place for the skilled workers. Number 7, don't crave power. 8, don't crave riches, so huge as you're set out your career path. 9, don't hang out with stingy people. 10, don't argue with idiots. Now remember, this is the Andy Huddleston translation. That's not exactly what it says in the NIV. This is my take on that. For credibility, let me show you the verse that it came from. Do not speak to fools, for they will scorn your prudent words. Don't argue with idiots. That's pretty close, I think. I'm sticking with that one. Number 11, don't take advantage of people. 12, strive to learn. Good idea in college. 13, discipline your children. If I could coach my children on what to do, them disciplining my grandkids would be high on the list. That's probably a top 30 sort of thing. We've sort of missed out on some of that in our culture these days. In fact, I don't want to offend anybody, but let me read you the verse out of the Message that I got that from. Proverbs 23:13 says, don't be afraid to correct your young ones. A spanking won't kill them. A good spanking, in fact, might save them from something worse than death. I'll let you wrestle with that on your own, but you do what you got to do. All right, verse number 14, seek wisdom. You see that idea all through Proverbs, especially in these 30. 15, trust God, another one that comes back again and again. So key as you're going out on your own. 16, don't spend too much time with partiers. This is a 3,000-year-old list, but its applications are spot on. I mean, you can go back and look at these 30. They're so huge. In fact, 16, 17, and 18, you're not seeing the other ones yet. If you could nail 16, 17, and 18, even if you got rid of the other 27, the chances of you succeeding coming out of college or transitioning into life go way, way up. If you're going to fail, 16, 17, and 18, one of those three is probably going to trip you. So let me just tell you ahead of time. Let me give you the verses this actually came from. Proverbs 23:19 says, "Listen, my son, and be wise. Set your heart on the right path. Do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags." If you look at the end of your freshman year, the kids who do not come back to your sophomore year, verse 16 probably got them. Number 16. Number 17, my favorite, listen to your mom and dad. I mean, the wisdom of this book. You know, kids, this is fantastic. Listen to your mom and dad. They still are your mom and dad even when you leave. Number 18, don't sleep with someone you're not married to. For all that changed in this world, some things stay the same. And if you can get 16, 17, and 18 right, the chances of you succeeding go way, way up. God's ways are best for you. Even when they don't fit culture, even when they don't sound like the right thing, even when you're inside fighting against them, God's ways are best. They stand tried and true. 19, don't drink too much. That's a key one. Number 20, trust God. 21, seek wisdom. 22, strive to learn. Good idea in college. Number 23, don't argue with idiots. It's in there. I mean, if I was writing, I'd say, no, really, this is the second time around. Don't argue with idiots. It doesn't save you any time. The amazing thing to me is this verse, number 23, saying 23, was written 3,000 years before Facebook was even invented. That's called prophecy. I mean, that's exactly a true thing. Don't waste your time arguing with idiots. Number 24, don't spend your time looking for shortcuts. If I could have learned this as a teenager, my life would have changed quite a bit. I spent a lot of time, especially when I was younger, trying to figure out how to spend 20 minutes, how to save on a 5-minute job, how to do it easier. And there's something about life that we miss out sometimes because we're looking for the shortcut, the quick path to the promotion, and some things only happen through sticking with it and being steadfast and faithful and showing up every day to do the things that lay before you. Don't spend your time looking for shortcuts. Eugene Peterson, the main translator on the Message translation, defined discipleship as a long obedience in the same direction. And if you want to be successful, whether it's in discipleship, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your marriage, it's a long obedience in the same direction. Just keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. Number 25, dig deep when times are hard. 26, seek wisdom. 27, don't bet against the righteous. They always win in the end. Number 28, don't be a self-righteous jerk. The American church could probably benefit from some of that teaching. We get this wrong sometimes. In fact, I want to show you the verse in Proverbs 24:17 that I got that from. It says, don't gloat when your enemy falls. When they stumble, don't let your heart rejoice, or the Lord will see and disapprove and turn his wrath away from them. And I think you could probably infer and put it on you. Notice how 27 and 28 go together. Being righteous, living by God's ways will get you the right direction in the end. But when others don't follow that same path, don't be a self-righteous jerk. Andy Heddleson translation. Number 29, trust in God. These first few years on your own, you're going to learn so many things. You're going to grow and stretch and learn and be exposed to so many wonderful things. But for all the new things that you learn, the book, the Scripture, is true. It's right, and you can lean your life on it. So whatever else you learn and grow and develop, that's fantastic. Discover things we don't even know yet. But the Bible is going to be true, and you can lean on that. You can trust God even when it doesn't seem to line up with what you think. Number 30 is fear God. Have a level of respect and reverence for God. Those 30 are pretty huge. Students, when you go to college, you read through those 30. Those are probably pretty good places to do. Inject vision into their souls. Proverbs 22-24. Okay, now I need to parents. Let me say something nice, and then I'm going to say something hard, kind of back to back. Is that all right if I do one of each? On the nice part, sometimes you hear messages like this, and if you're a little bit unsure of how you're doing as a parent, it just feels like you're pouring on extra weight. Like I'm having a hard enough time getting my kids to brush their teeth, let alone inject vision into their soul. I can't do everything. I'm changing diapers here. I'm sleep deprived, whatever. Take a deep breath. It's okay. God is still on the throne. God loves your children more than you do. He is still king of the universe. Trust yourself. Trust your kids. Trust God. You're not sending them off on their own. You're sending them off with Him. We're a fearful people, and it seems like even during the 20 years, 18 years that we've been parenting, parents are more fearful now than ever. And there's reasons to be nervous, but at some point you just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. It doesn't all happen at once. It happens in the slow, showing up every day stuff. Trust God on that. But now let me give you the hard part. I said to inject vision into their souls. Lots of us in our culture inject vision into their souls in the areas of education, in the areas of work ethic, in the areas of athletics, in the areas of popularity. We inject vision into our souls, and by the time we get to the spiritual stuff, we're so worn out and overstretched, we don't have time for that. We don't have a mental, emotional capacity for that. So we just hope that somebody at church will do that because we've got all the stuff we can do, getting them to the ball field and back and getting their homework turned in on time. And you can have kids who leave your house great at baseball and education with good grades and all of that stuff, part-time jobs, and if they don't have Christ, you've missed out on what was your biggest job, to inject that into their soul. So prioritize all the other stuff, do the other stuff, that's all great and fantastic, but God's given them to you to launch them spiritually into the world. That's your job. Used to, I think we all as a society assumed that. Now we kind of said it's the church's job. We want to help you with that. But if you're a parent, it's your job to inject vision into their souls. So I just want to ask you, help us help you. Bring them to everything you can, every trip you can afford. If you can't afford it, talk to us about scholarships. Every event, all the classes, they're going to help you from the little bitty kids. They start looking at Bible stuff really, really early. Get them in the classes, get them into the church, bring them to youth things. The trips especially, you need that. Those are important things. Inject vision into their soul. Third point is to take time to celebrate. So understand your place in the story, inject vision into their souls, take time to celebrate. I've been really working on myself here, and I'm not doing so well with a graduating senior, but this event is not a sad event. It's a happy celebration, and it's a milestone for her, and I'm going to miss her, so I'm having a hard time with that personally, but it can't be about me. It's about her. And take time to celebrate. It's tempting to miss that. And really, let me translate it for you if you're not in this phase of life. A lot of parents miss phases. What happens is you're in a phase and you're thinking about the next phase, or you're thinking about the phase you just got out of, and you miss the one you're in. Some of the best parenting advice I ever got was to not do that. Don't miss a phase. Stay present where you are, because you're going to miss before. Like what happens is you say to yourself, I just can't wait till my kids are potty trained. Like, please, no more diapers. Or I can't wait till they can put their own stinking shoes on. Like you can stand up and say, get shoes on. We all do it on our own. I don't have to tie bodies, anything. It's all just happens. Or can't wait till they sleep through the night. I'm so tired. I can't wait till that happens. And what happens is you get there and you're so focused on getting through those difficulties that you realize, I didn't enjoy some of that. And then you start looking back in regret, and you miss the stage you're in now because you're looking back in regret. And then you just get into this cycle of you're missing the stage you're in. Don't miss the stage you're in. Remember when someone telling me they couldn't wait till their kid could walk and talk, and now they can. They wish they'd sit down and be quiet. Just hush. Don't miss the stage you're in. Celebrate the stage that God has. It's a gift from God. Philippians 4 says, rejoice in the Lord always. I'll say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all, for the Lord is near. Always. Rejoice in the Lord always. Whatever stage you're in, rejoice in the Lord while you're changing diapers. Rejoice in the Lord when you're sending your kid off to school. Rejoice in the Lord when you're at the ball field every night. Rejoice in the Lord at graduation. Rejoice in the Lord always. And then let your gentleness be evident to all. There's a peace that comes from having God close, from walking with God. And especially if you can send your child off into the world knowing God's going with them. They're not alone. There's a peace that comes with that, and a gentleness that comes over you with that. Rejoice with the Lord always. Take time to celebrate, because each phase, every one of them is a gift from God. Number 4, say important things. So understand your place in the story, inject vision into their soul, take time to celebrate, and say important things. These are big days that you're in if you're sending out or getting ready to send out. We've been clarifying as a church what it looks like to follow Jesus, and we've said there's 4 things. You'll see signs everywhere in videos. We want people to find family, to know God, to discover their purpose and make an impact. And it hit me this week when I was writing this point that that's really what you need to do for your kids. You need to help them follow Jesus. You need to help them find a family. Spiritually, it is so key for you to have them with other kids while you're in here. This is not just babysitting so you can come in here and have a moment of peace. That's fantastic, let's be honest. But that's not the main thing you're doing. You're getting them tied into other kids and into loving adults who agree with you, who want them to follow God just like you do and are saying the same things. So key that you get family for your children, that you get them tied into people. Summer trips are the absolute best way to do that. If you send a kid to a week of camp, whether they're an elementary student or all the way through high school, if you send a kid off to a trip and they're there from Sunday to Friday or whatever it is, they will have more time with other adults who love them and care for them, other kids their age. They'll have more time during that week than if you took them to class all year long. And there's a lot of social, just hangout time. So get your kids to these trips. If money's an issue, I know they're expensive. Take out a mortgage on your house. No, don't do that. I'm just teasing. Talk to us about scholarships. We'd be glad to help you with that. There's fundraisers that you can do. In fact, they're doing a fundraiser today to help send some kids on a trip. Let us help you with that. But help your kids find family. Help your kids know God. Knowing God becomes a priority in your kid's life when knowing God's a priority in your life. And you model that better than you teach it. So if that's not a priority to you, but you're saying it, that means this much. If you're saying it and modeling it, your kids will catch that. Character is caught, not taught. So make knowing God a priority for you, and then make knowing God a priority for them. Not just knowing about God, but knowing Him, so that when they walk out into this world, they will walk out with Him helping them, leading them, guiding them. They're no longer under your control, your influence, your leadership, but they're under His. And that's a powerful calming force. Discover purpose. Find out what's unique about your kids and celebrate that. And encourage them to pursue those things. We've been teasing Lauren for a couple of years. She's going to go into chemistry as part of her degree program because she loves chemistry. And we've told her, Lauren, that's weird. No one loves chemistry. And for heaven's sakes, who loves chemistry? But she loves chemistry. And so you should pay attention to that. Do something that has chemistry involved because God must have done that. I certainly didn't do that. That's weird. So find ways to help them discover their purpose and make an impact. You look at any study, Sean talked about studies of this new generation of workers. Look at any employment study and what new employees want. Young employees come out of college, they want to find a way to make an impact. More important to them sometimes even than salary and benefits. They want to make an impact in the world, and God put that there. They're leading us generationally. I think some of the other generations aren't as good at that as they are. They want to make an impact. So help your kids do that in a way that honors God because they need that. There's a thirst for them in that. I'm launching my oldest in a couple of months, and I've always said, my rule has always been, if they're in the room or could be in the room, I don't talk about them. Because I don't want them feeling awkward about coming in here or looking at them or whatever. But starting next week, all 4 of my kids will be in here because my younger 2 will move up to middle school starting next week. And so I'm going to start babysitting to have kids' stories to tell because I can't talk about any of them. So if you need a babysitter, let me know. I'm on the lookout for kids' stories, preaching illustrations. Only if your kids are quirky. If they're, I don't need them if they're not quirky. I need quirky stories. But I figured Lauren's graduating now, so all bets are off. She's going to stupid college soon, so all bets are off. I'm going to talk about her today because that's what we're going to do. We've been looking through pictures, getting things ready for graduation, and I saw all these pictures of Lauren when she's a baby and toddler and all this stuff. It just reminded me of story. You get. And I remember when we had Lauren, Amy had gone through such a difficult labor, long hours of getting to that point. And we finally had this baby, and she's precious and perfect. And so I took a picture with my hand on her belly. I did it for all of my kids. I don't know why I did, but it struck me as the right thing at the moment. So there's a perspective of how big. And so I took a picture of her. And then they got her all cleaned up and gave her to me. And I was so excited. It had been such a long time. I had family out in the waiting room, friends. I thought, I'm going to go. So I started going outside. And apparently you can't do that. So the nurses about tackled me on the way out to, it's my baby, right? I can show her wherever. Apparently lawyers say it's a bad idea. So they, stopped me in the hallway. And we were so scared. I remember those first couple of days, we were so scared that we were going to break her. Like, you know what I'm talking? Anybody, like we were going to break this. And we'd seen Dateline episodes where kids have been switched in the hospital or abducted or whatever. So we were scared to death all the time. Kept her with us 24/7 in the hospital because, somebody's going to take this child. And stupid. Like, we were exhausted by the time we got out of the hospital, because like we'd take her down to have the nurses do a test or whatever, and I'd be standing outside the window, like keeping track, like where's she at, and just terrified something's going to happen to this child. So we finally get home a couple days later, and we're just exhausted. Emily comes along 18 months later, and we're like, take her. Just so you know, take her. It's fine. I've got an 18-month-old at home. You want her too? I'll send both of them down to the dirt, just whatever. Just take them. And after a couple days at the hospital, the nurses made a terrible mistake. And you don't want to talk about malpractice stuff. Everybody's so litigious now, But I figured they're in Indiana. They won't hear this message. And I think her warranty's off. I can't take her back at this point. So the statute of limitations is probably over. But the nurses made a terrible mistake. They released Lauren to my care. I hadn't a clue what I was doing. And they put this baby in my hands, put her in the car seat, and said, see you later. Like, what in the world was that about? I had no idea what I was doing. And I was exhausted because I'd been watching her for 24 hours a day, and I didn't have a clue. I thought, what in the world am I going to do with this child? I mean, a minute ago we talked about injecting vision into their soul. I just wanted to keep her alive for a couple of days. I had no idea what I was doing at all. And somehow, by God's grace, she survived those first few days, and now she's done, she's on her verge of being launched out into the world. Doing great. Very proud of her, for sure. I don't know if you've noticed my M&Ms here. I am an M&M fan. Peanut butters are the best ones. Anybody have any guess how many M&Ms are in here? 641s. Good guess. Higher than that. 785. No, it's a good guess. 786. Price is right. Come on down. No. No, there's 936 M&Ms in these two jars. Exactly even 468 in each one, unless the band has taken one when I wasn't looking, which is possible. I told them to watch their hands at the M&Ms. 936 M&Ms, and they represent one for each week from when they handed you this child and put it in a little car seat to take home until you launch them off on their own. 936 weeks. And they go by so fast, and you don't notice each one. They're all sort of nondescript, but each one matters. And together, they make this huge difference to prepare you to do what God sent them to you to do, which is to launch them into the world. I've been thinking a lot lately about the importance of markers. Moments in time that jump out off the day-to-day. We need those because you lose sight of things in the day-to-day. Weddings are a big marker, like this line in your sand for you or your family, whatever. Funerals are a big marker. When you go to a funeral, you think about what's most important and what really matters, those things. Births are a great marker. Graduations are a great marker. There are these moments in time where you ask yourself, okay, step out of the day-to-day busy world. What matters most? What matters most? And at the end of the day, the words of Jesus really are true. When Jesus was asked what matters most, boil it all down. He said, your relationship with God matters most. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And your relationship with other people matters right behind it. And I think those words are true. So this morning, I want to say to you, use this marker to ask yourself what matters most. And if you're not in a right relationship with God, that matters more than anything else. So students, if you're heading out on your own now or in the near future, where are you at with God? And if you don't feel connected to God, you need that more than anything else that college or careers or advice will bring. You need God in your life to walk through this world with you. Adults, if you don't have God in your life, if you feel distant, if you feel separate, nothing matters more than that. Let's get that part right. And then love your family well. Because each day comes quickly, but 936 of them add up in a hurry. And it matters what you do. It matters what you do. Let's take a moment to pray together, if we can. God, I thank you so much for the way that you love us. I thank you, God, for the way that you see us and you love us from before we're ever born all the way through our life. And you see us at all these markers, and they jump out at us as separate days. But God, I think you're intentional every day. I think you love us and lead us and call to us every day. So God, we're grateful for that. We're grateful for your wisdom as a great father to love in us and to provide us freedom, but also direction and to give us grace when we mess up and to Give us encouragement when we're down. God, you're such a great model of what moms and dads should be, and we're grateful for that. And so, God, we pray that you'd do that for us now, that you'd love us well now, whether we're students on the verge of making big changes or whether we're adults trying to figure out how to navigate this new world. We need your help. So we call out to you, God. We know that you've never abandoned us. You've never walked off and left us. You've always walked through this life with us. And so we don't doubt that you'll do that again. But we need some assurance. We need some feeling of closeness just now. So God, I pray for your help. I pray that you draw us to yourself. For any of us who maybe are a little distant, we've allowed things to creep into our life, or we've allowed you to creep, our devotion to you to creep out. God, would you draw us close just now? I pray especially, God, for our kids as we launch them into the world. Pray that you'd be with them and lead and guide them for all the great, amazing celebration things they're going to do. We're so excited for that. Help us, God, as we look to follow you. Would you take a moment to pray? Maybe something going on in your own life or your own home. Maybe it's for somebody that you know. Maybe it's for a friend. Maybe it's something completely unrelated to this. God's listening. Use the stillness of this moment to connect with him, and then I'll pray for us as well.